Now, as you've probably already seen or heard about, this weekend George Lucas is being honored at the famous Cannes Film Festival. And along with this honor have come quite a few interviews with the now 80-year-old Lucas. And I'm happy to say that he looks pretty good for his age. Maybe not to the point where I think any of the constant leaks and rumors about him returning to Star Wars, or to buy back Lucasfilm, or to make another movie, or whatever it might be, are true. Not to mention, in one of these interviews, he did make it very clear he is 100% done and retired. But anyway, he does look good for his age, and he had a lot to say this past weekend about everything from Disney Star Wars, to people accusing his original 6 films of being racist and or sexist, to the backlash to the prequels. He even talked about how AI is sort of this inevitable future that many are already rejecting or afraid of. And though a couple of these interviews we have full videos of and we can watch in their entirety, and I will try to remember to link them in the description below should you want to check them out for yourself. Some of the others, like the one with the Hollywood Reporter where he seemed to say some of the most interesting stuff, we only have what the article gave us, and in this particular one, he apparently had this to say about how Disney handled Star Wars without him. I was the one who really knew what Star Wars was, who actually knew this world, because there's a lot to it. The Force, for example, nobody understood the Force. When they started other ones after I sold the company, a lot of the ideas that were in the original sort of got lost. But that's the way it is. You give it up, you give it up. And I mean, I think that is basically how a lot of us Star Wars fans have felt for a while now, or since Disney purchased it. And he does kind of, you could say, take the blame for selling Disney when he says you give it up, you give it up. It almost sounds like him saying, I sold it to them and they did what they did. My bad. I should have realized they were never going to get this right. And again, I think that's how a lot of fans feel, that something is just wrong with it. Something has been lost, that there is this misunderstanding out of them about what it is all about or should be about. Or maybe I shouldn't say misunderstanding. That implies an attempt to understand it in the first place. And I really don't think Disney, and when I say that I mean the corporate overlords, if you will, I don't think they genuinely care about telling great Star Wars stories. They don't care about Star Wars itself. These are not people who are fans or have a profound respect for what Lucas created or bought it to try and honor what Star Wars is and why Lucas, made it in the first place. And more on that in just a bit. It was about making as much money off of it as they possibly could. They saw nothing but dollar signs, not a place to tell great stories for people to get something out of. And to quote Yoda, that is why you fail. As I've said before, if they had tried to honor Star Wars, they may have, in the long run, made more fans, made the fans they had happier, and made more money. But you can just feel that is not their motivation. You can feel the difference behind something that is driven or created mainly out of passion or out of love, and something that is being engineered out of greed and created to make as much money as possible. And in one of these interviews, Lucas even talks about how he didn't care about making money. That is not what motivated him. Though, yeah, that's kind of easy to say when you have literally made billions of dollars in your life. But he said that's not why he got into this. He got into it because he found he loves to make movies. Plus, Disney, brought in writers and directors that didn't fully understand it, or again, want to try to understand it on a deeper level, or what Lucas was going for on that deeper level, or who simply wanted to do what they wanted to do with Star Wars, not, again, honor what Lucas had originally intended. Now, sure, you can say they understood it enough to make a surface-level spectacle. They understood that people like lightsabers and space battles and weird-looking aliens and all that stuff. But they didn't get the substance underneath it all. They didn't get or care about what these movies are supposed to say, again, according to Lucas. The sequels are Star Wars in name and appearance, but not meaning. That's what I think George Lucas was trying to say with that quote without just flat out saying it. He's saying, yeah, they bought it, it's technically theirs, and they have every right to call it Star Wars or do whatever the hell they want with it, but what they created is not the same thing as the Star Wars I created. And speaking of what this all means or who it's for, Lucas also talked about, mainly in regards to the backlash to the prequels and Jar Jar in particular, who these movies were actually made for. It was supposed to be a kids' movie for 12-year-olds that were going through puberty, who don't know what they're doing and are asking all the big questions. What should I be worried about? What is important in life? And Star Wars has all those things in there. They're buried in there, but you definitely get it, especially if you're young. And though I completely understand what Lucas is saying, and I agree it is important to try and, shall we say, communicate to 12-year-olds that the world is a very confusing place and that there are bigger questions that will come up, both about life itself and your own life that you're going to have to grapple with at that age, and it's going to be very hard to figure it all out. But the thing is, you don't figure it out when you're 12, and if you did, if you knew exactly who you wanted to be and what you wanted to do in your life, all potentially 70, 80, 90, 100 years of it, when you were at the age of 12, well, then you are certainly the exception and not the norm. Most people take a long time to figure things out in life, and some never really do. Some never really feel like they find a real place or purpose, and they drift from one thing to the next. And some who do find that purpose, who even find true happiness and are mainly content, they will still, from time to time, question if a different path would have actually been better, or what is the point behind any of this. And thus the life lessons for 12-year-olds about trying to figure things out or find a purpose in life are lessons that resonate with everyone throughout our entire lives. That's why Star Wars is loved by so many people of all ages, I think, because so very few of us easily find a destiny and then live it out and then have zero regrets about anything along the way. Basically, the questions you start to ask yourself when you're 12 are the ones you're hoping you got right when you're much older, or are maybe facing the end of this crazy thing known as life. Heck, even in these interviews, Lucas talks about how when he went to college, he had no idea what he wanted to do or be, and that, long story short, he signed up for a photography class, thought it was going to be about taking pictures, and it turned out it was about making movies, and he realized, oh, you can go to school for making movies? It then turned out he loved it and wanted to do it as a career, and well, I think we all know the rest of that story. Finally here then, Lucas was asked about his films being racist and or sexist. He was asked about why it's all white men in the movies, and he responded, most of the people are aliens. The idea you're supposed to accept people for what they are, whether they're big and furry or whether they're green or whatever, the idea is all people are equal. And I mean, yeah, I don't think there's anything really to add to that one. I couldn't agree more that all people should be viewed as equal despite what they look like. Though Lucas did also point out that he cast Billy D. Williams and Samuel L. Jackson, so it's not like literally every non-alien was a white guy. He also pointed out that the only discrimination we see in Star Wars is against droids, which he even kind of compared to what's going on today with people's fear of AI, that people are already afraid of it, though in this case, I'm not so sure that some of these fears and concerns that people have aren't a bit warranted, but that is certainly a discussion for another time. Then there was also what he said when asked about how he has depicted women in Star Wars, and to that he said, who do you think the heroes are in those stories? What do you think Princess Leia was? She's the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid who doesn't know anything and this boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything and trying to save the rebellion with these clowns. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. He then goes on to say, you can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses. They can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and plan and be logistical. That's what the hero is. And though he's maybe a little hard on Luke and Han calling them clowns, I get what he's trying to say. I get the point he's trying to make. And he's not wrong about Leia being the one who takes charge and gets things done. She is the leader of the rebellion, and especially in A New Hope, she does kind of take charge. And it always baffles me when someone has a problem with the way women are portrayed in George Lucas Star Wars, or when they claim Rey was the first this or that. When it comes to women in Star Wars, we have this really funny way of trying to rewrite history to make what we're doing today seem better or more important or more profound than it actually is. Or to try and judge people in the past off these standards of the modern world that we are just creating right now. Which, no, doesn't mean we should exactly excuse the sins of the past because they didn't know any better. But to be mad that George Lucas, almost 50 years ago now, didn't meet the exact diversity standards of today is really silly, especially when his movies were probably more diverse than most others at the time. But anyway, let's not get into all that. Instead, that is going to be all I have for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you think about what George Lucas had to say here. Do you agree with him? Do you disagree, or what? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.